Good evening, and welcome to not another edition of Splattercast. No, something we've been anticipating for quite some time if you've been following us since the start of our channel. This is our review of Prey.
Whatever did this, I can kill it.
Now, yeah, this movie is we're big avid Predator fans, I would say, and this movie has been on our list for some time. I would say probably maybe my second or third most anticipated movie of the year, especially as we've been getting a lot of the marketing and everything kind of leading up to it. It was definitely kind of a big surprise. I'm not going to lie to you. I remember when this got announced, I was like, okay, that's a little strange. I didn't think that we'd be getting another Predator movie for quite some time after how things went with, the Predator.
It was a good time. I loved The Predator, as we all
Oh
know
yeah.
on this podcast.
I watched it actually last night in preparation for this. I haven't seen it since theaters. I fell asleep, but
Okay, yeah.
yeah, no, not
That's the
great.
appropriate response.
Yeah,
Um,
not great.
which out there is one thing before we jump into it that The Predator does do that they kind of reuse in this, and I think they do it even better.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But we'll probably have to save that for the spoiler section.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, if just so you guys know, this is going to be our non-spoiler review. So, this is just going to basically be our general thoughts, a recommendation if there is one, and just how we're feeling about the movie, just fresh off of it. We're currently recording this at 4:50 in the morning.
Oh
So,
man, I haven't had any coffee yet, so get
we
me raw.
we got up early to watch this. I mean, you got up at 2:45 and said it was posted.
Yes, and I
Um,
may have been posted earlier than that from what I was looking at, so I don't know.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
I feel like a fool now because everything that I saw online said that it was coming up at
that's what I saw as well. So I
3
don't know
a.m.
if that's
Eastern
accurate or
Standard Time.
some people just had earlier access. I don't know.
It could have. I mean, I think the thing with it is like people are probably going off the Disney Plus schedule because
Oh yeah.
Disney Plus usually launches at about 3 a.m. and Hulu and Disney, same company. So, you know, it's an easy mistake to make. Either way, the film has been watched. Luke, give me your raw thoughts. What do you think of Prey?
Oh man. So like you, I've been anticipating this film. Honestly, I've been anticipating this film ever since it was announced, and Dan Trachtenberg was going to be directing, and said that he had a very specific idea that was near and dear to his heart, and he really wanted to get it out there. So I was like, oh, finally, you know. You try not to get your hopes too high with this stuff, because it's like going into when Shane Black did The Predator, going into it when it was initially announced, it's like, oh, this will be interesting. And then we lose hope as we get farther down the line. And by the time getting out of that theater, I mean, we've talked about it. There was no light at the end of the tunnel at that point. I will say credits rolling on Prey. Very unique feeling for me because I haven't been happy with any sort of Predator property in a very long time. So, needless to say, I am a huge fan of Prey.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I definitely want to watch it again where I'm not as tired
Yeah.
because like I definitely think that hindered a little bit of my experience, but we want to get this review out to you guys as early as possible. And I wouldn't say it hindered it like in any negative way. I was thoroughly enjoying this movie. I would say like if I have any critiques at all, they're very few and far between.
Yeah.
But like honestly, like even saying that, I can hardly think of any. I thought that the pacing of the story was excellent. I love that we got some time with our characters to build up. One thing I thought that was gonna bug me a lot was the with this kind of stuff, it's that kind of story of like if you've seen the trailer and everything, we follow a female Comanche who wants to be a hunter, Naru, I believe her name is,
Yes, that's right.
and she wants to be a hunter, and of course, all the men in her village are like, "No, why you want to do this?" Blah blah. I thought that would get on my nerves a little bit more than it did. I think that they played it up really, really well, though. They didn't let it get too preachy and too over like the top with that, where they're just like beating you with that constantly. Because like I am already gonna see a bunch of discourse online from people like just being really stupid about this and saying like, "Oh my god, like I can't say a woman can kill a predator and all that stuff." Like, guys, it's a fictional monster. Like, what are you talking about? So it's like it's nice that the film didn't play into that, that they actually took the time to say, like, there are other attributes to this character other than just I'm a woman and I'm trying to be a hunter and I'm trying to fight this monster. You know what I mean? And because I was really concerned that that's the route they were going to go with.
And like you're saying, they didn't really beat you over the head with that concept, and it wasn't really out in the forefront. I didn't feel where they kind of, um, it, they had mentioned that she was good at other things. They didn't say
Hmm.
specifically, what exactly that was, but it wasn't really that whole if you're a woman, you can't really do this. And I think one of the things that really did help that was the relationship between Narrow and Tobay.
Oh, absolutely. I love
I
that.
think that brother sister relationship that we did get there, where it's like, he's much more, I guess you would say, almost head of the pack, where he's kind of out in front. And they think, he's going to probably be the next guy. So it's like, and he has some faith in her to a certain extent, as we do see as the film goes on. So it's like, I think, it's one of those things where maybe a lot of the tribe doesn't take her as serious as maybe he does, where I think he does see that potential in her. And I think they do a great job at conveying that while trying to, inject this, the monster into it as well. So it's like I think they really did focus on that brother sister relationship, which I think was one of the most well done parts of this film. It
Absolutely.
felt real. The moments they made count, and they mixed it in very perfect.
Oh yeah, I would agree 100% that that was one of the strongest parts. I think that they have a lot of really great emotional moments, especially towards the ending, with their kind of resolutions. I think that they really sold that and they kind of nurtured it throughout the entire film, so that way when those moments do hit, they hit hard.
Yep.
And like I quite enjoyed just I think a lot of the relationship with the tribe members and everything. I thought that like, they because I think like when you run the risk of having a lot of people like in this movie, you obviously will have our main character and a few side characters, but they kind of I guess run the risk of being more shuffled off to the side. And to an extent they're not the deepest delved into, but I think that they all have a really awesome working relationship. And you do, like you said, you get to see a lot of what Naru brings to that tribe and what other things she's good at and stuff. And I appreciate that it wasn't just, that standard cut and dry, you're a woman, you can't do this. It's like there was those apprehensions and tendencies you could tell from some members of the tribe, but it felt more realistic to me that there would be other members that would be more accepting to it, that would be more opening. Like you could tell throughout the film that her mother wasn't like thrilled that this is their path she wanted to go down, but she was still going to support her daughter. She was still going to
Yeah.
say, this is what you want to do. I just don't understand why, but I mean, you're good at so many other things, but this is your path. And I really thought that that was a fresh and unique way of looking at this story.
And I think that's a very interesting kind of storytelling point, because we look at this and like how you're saying, there's probably gonna be this discourse of, oh, she's a woman, she can't take on this predator, this giant monster. But what it looks like for me, this is a golden storytelling, because it's like that she is dealing with that even in with the other humans in the tribe. Oh, you're a woman, you can't do this. So to have a male character do this, he may not be used to that. So once he's fighting from underneath in a sense against this predator, he wants to use brute force, but maybe that it's not going to work in this situation. Whereas Naru has been kind of dealing with this probably her whole life, so she knows that and we see it a lot in the film. She is often the smartest person in the room, so
Hmm.
it's like she uses her wits to. And again, I think they do a great job at portraying her as strong physically as well. There's a particular scene with a member of the tribe where they kind of mix it up a little bit, and she totally holds her own. She feels like a hunter. So it's like I think
Hmm.
they handled this character so well. They give her such a well-rounded kind of feeling here, where it's like she's not just they portray her as weak and she's got to use her wit. She's a very physically strong character as well. So I think all that mixes so well in terms of her being able to take on this predator toward the end of the film.
No, I would agree. I think that they do a really great job throughout this film, uh, really selling you on her character. And I gotta say, great performance by Amber Midthunder.
Yes.
Like she carries this entire film on her shoulders. And like, I mean, to an extent, Dakota Beavers is her brother. So I'd say that like he carries maybe about 20% of it.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, it's almost entirely her. And I think that like, well, I guess really even not almost, it is her. Like it's her
Yeah.
story from frame one. And they just really I think did an excellent job casting her. I felt like she was very believable. Especially you know, one thing that as a minor criticism that I don't think I touched on too much in the trailer that was a little, you know, I think it was just the way the trailer was cut was in the bear scene that we've seen in the trailer. Her facial reaction to that
Yeah.
was always just kind of like, you know, her eyes. I think the way they cut the trailer was maybe this way because, like, I just felt like she was doing a lot of like, oh my god, with her eyes and stuff, and I
Yeah.
was just worried that maybe she was going to come off a bit wooden. Not at all. That was a total, you know, like I think just the way the trailer came off, but she sold this movie first and foremost. Like, great job.
You
Um, I want to ask you. So we get a little bit of a different kind of predator in this film. How do
yes.
you feel about it?
I'm always excited to see any sort of predator in any incarnation. So it's like I again, where you look at the very first Predator and you look at Predator 2, where they're very outspoken about Predator 2, saying we wanted to give him a different field. It's just like human beings; they all don't look the same. Everyone's unique in their own way. In this one, again, we have a different looking, feeling kind of Predator, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So it's like. I don't know. I want to go back and I'm gonna watch this again because, like how when we did the Predator 2 podcast, I feel like that Predator comes off a little clumsy in a certain sense. So I think they all have their own fields. This one seems, I can't put a real gauge on him 100% yet, but he feels like he is that kind of hunter where he is tracking everybody. I don't know necessarily if he feels like he is like a novice hunter at this point. I feel like he's been out in the field a little bit. So I'm curious to do that other viewing because I want to see what I can pick up here. But I enjoyed it overall. I love the kind of new weaponry that we see
I was
here.
gonna say that was a huge highlight for me. Like they have, you know, we saw the shield in the trailer. We were really theorizing on that shoulder blaster, which I absolutely love the addition of that and how they
Yep.
handle that because that was a huge thing I think for both of us was just that it's like if you're gonna set a Predator film this far back in time, I would really like to see a downgrade to some of the Predator's weaponry. And, you know, they definitely do that with the plasma caster because it's not a plasma caster.
Yep.
It's a tangible weapon. And I love that, you know, a little minor spoiler, I guess. I love that he has to. It's not something that retracts or anything. He has to go collect the bolts and everything. It feels very much like an arrowhead,
Yeah.
which is again kind of what they're dealing with as our main characters. What main weaponry that and a hatchet, I would say. So it was nice to see them pull back a little bit, and I love Dan Trachtenberg's comments. About how God of War, I'm a huge fan of that game, the
Yeah.
most recent one, and the shield. I loved the shield. They use that in ways I did not expect. Specifically in one sequence,
Very unique.
which we'll get into in the spoiler side of things. But like it was, yeah, very unique, very cool. I thought that that was a fantastic addition, and I hope that we can see that return in another Predator film.
Yeah. Overall, I think he was so well done. After seeing like you see AVP, you see Predators, you see the Predator. They all have these different kind of it's different storytelling where in a sense you have a good Predator, a bad Predator. Sometimes the Predators are almost the heroes working with the humans. So it was nice to see almost a return to kind of this one felt more so like a villain, like how we did in Predator and Predator 2, where it's like, okay, I'm supposed to be rooting against this guy. And I think they kind of return to
Yes.
that form here.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed that because, and I think that was also being able to get behind the protagonist in here and feeling that they were strong. And going back to that original Predator and Predator 2, where we talked about Predator 2, and I said sometimes it feels like it's kind of rushed, where Bill Paxton's delivery of a lot of his comedies seems like it's so rushed, like we got to get to the next thing. Whereas Predator takes its time. Here, I feel like there isn't a ton of dialogue, but we get to sit with these characters a lot. So even though they don't have a lot of memorable like stick around or anything like that, it is like we have this time with them, and it's not massive character development like we're getting backstories, but we're sitting with them, we're getting their personalities. So even the characters that aren't on screen for very long, you feel like you have spent time with them.
No, I would agree. And I think the other thing I want to highlight in this review is just Dan Trachtenberg's directing.
Yes.
I think that from frame one, you can tell that this man had a vision for this. He wasn't just talking out his ass. Like, speaking of Shane Black's The Predator, not to do a full takedown on that movie, I watched some of the special features for that because I have the 4K complete set for Predator. It was just something I got for cheap, and I had never checked him out because, like I said, I never put the movie in. Like I've watched all the other ones multiple times since I've owned that set, and I never put that one in. God, it's just so disheartening to hear like him say like, "Oh, I'm such a huge fan. I was in the first movie and blah blah all the stuff," and then watch the movie and it feels like it doesn't translate at all.
Yeah.
Complete 180 here, where it's like you can tell that Dan Trachtenberg really came into this movie with a vision and a story in mind, and he wanted to execute it. And he's just really impressive with his resume right now. I mean, between 10 Cloverfield Lane coming out right out of the gates, and then you have his work on The Boys, and now this. I mean, like the guy really is building a name for himself. I'm excited to see what he does next. I would really like to see him continue to shepherd this series if he has more stories to tell, or at least can, in some capacity oversee some of this, because I think that we're on the right path with Predator now. We just need to stay there. We need to
Yeah.
keep the momentum going. He really understood, I think, what made the first film and the second film to an extent, um, what makes them as great and as classic as they are, keeping this a smaller, more contained story, and just again focusing on the characters and focusing on the character of the Predator, really giving it, its own personality. Like you said, how Predator 2 has kind of a different feel than Predator 1's Predator. It's like you really need that, and I feel like a lot of these later films they miss that. And it's
Yeah.
something that I'd even say to an extent, even in Predators, even though I enjoy that movie, with that, there's really only one Predator I feel that has a unique personality to the others. The rest of them are just kind of there. And again, this one, very unique from basically frame one. Again, like you could just tell he had an idea, he knew exactly what he wanted to execute, and he did it. And
Yeah.
it's so refreshing, so wonderful to see. I'm extremely happy with how this movie turned out.
And going back to Dan Trachtenberg's previous works, it's like I just think he's got this knack for almost contained storytelling, where it's like Prey is out in the open. We have a lot of space to play with, but in a sense, they don't travel that far, so it does feel pretty contained to a certain degree here. And I really like that. I think that's what you need in a lot of these Predator films. And it's like I don't know necessarily if he needs to revisit the Predator franchise. I think maybe in some sort of producing role would be very
That's more what I
intriguing.
mean. Yeah.
But like, I think what the Predator franchise does need is, we don't need to kind of play with all these time periods. I think this was unique to it, but I don't want to necessarily see, hey, let's jump back 100 years again and see what we can do there. Where it's like, you can tell an intriguing Predator story in current time. Look at Predator 2. Yeah, it doesn't work overall, but to a certain degree that it does. So it's like, as long as you have a competent filmmaker with a great idea, you focus on some of the characters and don't bloat it. You also focus on that predator. I think you can get a great story. So it's like, as long as you treat it like Dan Trachtenberg, you have a story that is near and dear to your heart. pitch it and let's see if we can make it work, because you can tell he had a dog in this fight and it worked out tremendously here. So overall, I love the, I think I mentioned maybe on the Slice Scares, I can't remember, but where he may be recalibrating the franchise here, I think he did.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to. I think there will be another film greenlit after this one. After,
Oh,
because
I'm
I think,
I'm almost certain. I think that the hype and the buzz around this movie is real. I think that
yes,
because I you see on Twitter a lot this week, a lot of people in their reviews or even just people in general are just saying like it's just such a travesty that this movie isn't ending up in theaters
yeah,
because like not only is it beautiful and it looks great and especially for something that's directed to streaming like honestly, like there's not one effect in here. And there's a lot of like animal CGI and stuff like that because obviously there's certain things they couldn't get real animals to do.
yeah.
That just looks great. It looks like it's on that looks like it's on that level of like the Revenant and stuff like that as far as how they motion cap some of that.
I
So
will
it's just
say one of my critiques is the CGI. I think a lot
okay.
for me, the animal stuff was a little shaky with the snake and a few other things. But again, I'm forgiving that because it is it's has to be told for the
Hmm.
story purpose, and then we drop off at a certain point. So it's like some of that stuff doesn't work for me. I think, but you couldn't do it any other way, and I think you needed to kind of draw those parallels between, uh, humans, predators, and every other predator out on Earth. So it's like I think you needed those kind of shots. So for me, I'm forgiving it because you needed them, but for some, it was a little questionable for me.
I get that, but for me, I think it worked a little better. I was pretty happy with it, and I just think that like it is that cinema level quality. So it's just a
Yeah.
shame that it's not in theaters. But I don't know. Is this something? Do you want to see Predator return to theater? I think like we're big enough theater fans that it's cool, and I'd like to, of course, get the opportunity to see it. Or do you think that Predator has now found a home on streaming?
I'll take Predator any way I can get it. We talked about it a few weeks ago, where just because it's going to streaming doesn't mean that the quality isn't there. This is an obvious tell right here. Look at Prey. I mean, again, cinematically, it's beautiful. Some of those shots in there just really open the world. It covers so much ground. It's like I don't even know how he I can't even imagine being on set and being like, "Yep, this is my shot." It's just all inspiring right there. So for me, I would love to see it back in theaters if that's where the road takes it. But hey, if we're gonna make a deal here where maybe we're gonna get a lot of smaller films that are unique to a director who really want to tell the story, but we don't know if the audience is there, but it's probably gonna be a really good story. If that's what we're gonna get on streaming, I say go for it. So hey, this is such an expansive universe. Why not do both? If we're gonna do it, with Chucky and everything, I think we can fit Predator in there as well. So, I mean, like, this is such a rich universe. I'm just so glad to kind of get this recalibrated and making it more into a viable franchise, because we haven't seen that for such a long time.
I agree. But yeah, guys, like I said, about wraps us up here for Prey, at least for our non-spoiler review. So definitely check this thing out this weekend, and then meet us back here again on Saturday. We'll be posting our spoiler-heavy review. No clue how long we're going to chat about this movie for. Could be a
Few
while. I
hours.
do want to get one more watch through before we do that, just to again take some notes. I know you said you wanted to look at a couple of things. Because I'm sure that we're going to dive deep on the Predator itself, and just I think the really where I'd like to talk a little bit more too about is just the future of the franchise from here and
Yes.
just where we're going to go. So yeah, you can guys can definitely keep up with us here in the comment section. Let us know what you guys think of Prey, as well as following us at Splattercast Pod on Twitter. We'll be constantly updating you guys. I'm sure we'll be putting a few more thoughts up there about not only just Prey, but the Predator franchise in general. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you can also check out our latest episode of Splattercast where we cover Predator 2 for nearly 3 hours. So that's why I say
Killed
I
it.
don't think I can give you a real definitive time slot for Prey because when it comes to this movie monster, we tend to chat for a while.
There's just too much out there.
Absolutely. But yeah, if you could also follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and anywhere your podcasts are found, you can find us on there as well. So yeah, I guess that about wraps us up here, guys. So definitely check out Prey.